The World Skeptics Congress, paranormal, supernatural, fringe science, pseudoscience, and how it really is. Berlin welcomes you.
We're skeptically interrogating you.
So now we come to the last award of this evening, and in fact, the person getting this award, you could say, is part of the furniture of European skepticism. I think he's been in probably almost all the European skeptics conferences I've ever been in, and we're coming back to the topic of medicine, and I'm sure many of you will guess who this person is. In fact, it is Willem Betz. He studied medicine, and after having studied medicine, he was a practitioner for quite a while, and in Antwerp. And during this time, he had also been learning a lot about, again, this is the story about learning about complementary and alternative medicine, attending a lot of courses, and also trying to apply these technologies to patients. And one of the things he did do was he used homeopathy, and he was completely surprised when he found that it seemed to work. One of the women that he was treating turned out to be okay after the treatment. And then he found out that he gave the wrong homeopathic medicine. Anyway, so he, after coming back after 20 years, he came back to his university, the Free University of Brussels, and began teaching his students, ongoing doctors, and taught them to be critical about not just alternative medicine, but to be critical of medicine in general, to be sure that the kinds of therapies that are being applied actually work. Now, this itself is not a great feat, but beyond this, he has been following developments inside of Europe. He's been tracking legislation. He's been looking at the way these complementary and alternative medicines are being applied inside of Europe, and has been, for example, involved in a project called COST. Some of you who are Europeans know that this is part of one of the European programs on research, and to set down quality standards in medicine. And in fact, one of the incredible things that he managed to do, he's got people from the complementary and alternative medicine scene to sign into some quality standards. I don't know whether they really knew what they were doing at that time, but so he has had a huge impact on the kind of discussions that have been going on inside of Europe, and the discussions that have been going on inside of creating new legislation. But perhaps the biggest feat of all that he had accomplished was some years ago there was a report being prepared by the World Health Organization, and that was going to be extremely positive about complementary or alternative medicine and homeopathy in particular. And in effect, the work that he did managed to get the people never to actually publish the report that was in preparation. So I would like to present the last award, but not least, to somebody who's really made a big impact in Europe and beyond that, to Willem Betz.
So this is the award in recognition of his dedication and outstanding contributions to promoting science and good medical practice.
Thank you very much. Do you like fairy tales? Do you like Alice in Wonderland? I would like to tell you a little bit about Little Skeppy in Homeopathic. It's very comparable, and I think it's even more fantastic. But I will start with a small appeal first, an appeal for help. I have a lot of experience with talking to homeopaths, reading their publications, and their tactics, one of them is they write a short article, which is usually nonsense, and at the end they say, and these are the articles that prove, the trials, the tests that prove that homeopathy works. A list of 50, 70, 80, 100 publications. I call this their tactics of flooding. Now, as a skeptic, you want to be honest. I say, well, I know some of those. Personally, I know a lot of those trials. Some of them I don't know. Asking for those texts, analyzing them, really seriously analyzing one of those texts, is at least half a day work, if not a complete weekend work. Have to do the statistics again, and then have to conclude, well, this is worthless. So they do the same thing with politicians. They bombard them. Say, we have lots of proof, but there is a conspiracy against us. They don't accept our proof. And this is because of the pharmaceutical industry and perhaps the Illuminati, I don't know. Everybody is against it because they have excellent proof. Well, some of the lists I analyzed, even though it was 20 years ago, a very nice homeopath said, really, you have to believe us. You are biased. Here are the proofs that homeopathy works. I looked up Article 1. It said, well, it seems to be a bit different from placebo. Article 2 said, well, it's certainly not worse than placebo. Article 3 said, it doesn't work at all. They have no problem including negative articles in their long lists. That was one of the criticisms, how we could stop that WHO publication on homeopathy. It was scandalous, it was fraudulent, it was full of lies. It was published in The Lancet and, well, it stopped it. Politicians are impressed. And now that's the problem. If they bombard the lay public, or even doctors, with all those proofs, it takes a lot of work. I have spent lots of time analyzing, calculating articles that are supposed to prove homeopathy works. Where do those results go? In my computer somewhere, and then a few years later say, yes, I remember I wrote something about it. Where is it? Where is it? I have to give honor to Professor Ernst with his fantastic publication, Fact, periodical focus on alternative and complementary therapies. But I'm sadly to say, when I was still teaching, I'm retired, emeritus professor now, I could have easy access on my university computer. But now, I'm just like any citizen, I have to pay to see those articles. Why don't we skeptics internationally not make a database where you can look at so-called proof for homeopathy or other alternative medicines and find clear language, this is positive, this is negative, this is bullshit, and why? That's something we should do. With my good friend Jan-Willem Nienhuis in Holland, we have started to make a small database in Dutch. I think we should do it in English. And really put our efforts together, and that anybody who really wants to answer homeopathic cheats and liars, say, just that's the link. There you find why it is nonsense, that you don't have to do double work it. Now, what else do they do? Cherry picking. Of course we know cherry picking. You know the little joke, I think it was President Bush who said, half of the Americans have an IQ lower than 100. We have to do something about it. Well, this is what homeopaths are doing. If you compare two worthless treatments, that's usually what they do. You compare two worthless treatments. One is so-called orthodox and the other is worthless homeopathic. Then you find a difference. And then if you just publish the 50% that are positive for homeopathy, you have proof. If you have to do a lot of statistical gymnastics or data fishing or dredging, very bad. If the results are not very clear, the treatment is not so very recommendable. comparing to inefficient treatment. That's what they really love to do. They don't blush to even cite again and again studies that have been repealed or retracted. Even that in the WHO document, and also in a document prepared by the Italian homeopaths, they even cite Benveniste as proof. You know, the one who was shamefully retracted? Well, it's proof, it works, they say. Then what else do they do? Well, I'm in a committee in the Belgian Ministry of Health now, how to recognize homeopaths. And also there's another committee how to recognize acupuncturists. So what do? They come with studies to show how popular it is. Really? Did you know that 60% of the Belgians love homeopathy? And they want it, say the homeopaths. It's just a matter of how you make the question. Do you know that 90% of the Belgians go to sleep every night with, I'm looking for the English word, a false teeth, a rubber teeth, we call it a tutter in Flemish. Yes, if you ask the question, have you ever in your life used a 90% will say yes. So also I could prove to you that, let's say, 80% of the German population love to ride on a little three-wheeler. Yes? If you do a survey and say, have you ever ridden on a three-wheeler? Most people will say yes. So the Germans love three-wheelers. That's the way they cheat. And then if even our Belgian official Office of Statistics says that the last 7 or 8 years, 4% of the population use homeopathy, have used it in the recent 12 months. That's a realistic figure. But they want to convince politicians by blowing up those figures. Now, even stronger. Now in this committee in the ministry, they are flooding the politicians with positive news about homeopathy. You know about the Swiss case. Switzerland had ordered some studies about alternative medicine. They ordered some studies from serious scientists. One of them was a study by Schein et al., saying that homeopathy is bullshit. Okay, very serious study. But they also, to keep the balance, they ordered a study from a university you Germans must be very proud of, with a Herdecke. It's an anthroposophical university, that's even worse than homeopathic. And they made a book study to prove why homeopathy works. And that book was in German, but half a year ago, they published it and reworked the version in English. Thanks to my Dutch friends, we have to pay for it. We have it in electronic form. And we started to reading it with more and more incredulity. They take the most serious meta-analysis that's proved that homeopathy doesn't work, and they just change the conclusions of the authors. And their defense is quite simple. They say, okay, we are doing the same that you scientists are doing. But sometimes you say we have a positive article for homeopathy, and then you recalculate and you say it was not positive. Well, we do the same. Okay, fair is fair. And some politicians believe it. That's the title of this book. It's, if you have a low blood pressure, read it. It will go up. Now, and I will end the story with Alice in Wonderland, but Skeppy in Homeoland in the European Union. This is so incredible. I have been telling this story for almost 20 years now at skeptical meetings, but I'll just give the highlights to you. In '65, there was a very serious law in Europe after the famous Software incident that medication has to be proven to work and has to be proven to be safe. Okay. In many countries, mainly Germany, where they have a lot of patent medicines, thousands of medications disappeared out of the pharmacies. Normally, homeopathy should have disappeared also. They can prove nothing. And then, miracolo. 92, a European directive, a little bit helped by lobbying by the German homeopathic industry, well helped by the French homeopathic industry. They made an exception. Follow the reasoning. They say, listen, homeopathy is so special, is so individual. We do not have one medication for one ailment or for one symptom. It all depends on your total image. It depends if you, for example, you have pain in your knee, but if you at night you dream of robbers, then you need another medication. When you see a full moon and you hear piano music, it makes you sad, you need to choose another medication. It's very individual. So we cannot put a medical indication on just one product. Okay, said the politicians, you can have your holy water as long as you don't put commercial names on it, as you don't put indications on it, that you say it's very individual, and as long as it's so diluted that it will certainly do nothing at all, you can have it. Many thanks, said the homeopaths. Thank you for the simplified registration. Immediately, with help of green politicians, some Belgians, I'm not very proud of it, they say, well, we should also be able to sell complex products. I have to go to the next thing. We have to sell complexes, they call it. You put several homeopathic products in one vial. How can you justify that it's so individual? Okay, no problem, homeopathic logic. So we also, because they are complex, we need to use specific names. Look at the list of homeopathic complex products. They are very suggestive. Cardio for the heart, pneuma for the lungs, osteo for liars, cheaters, yes? And then, fantastic, I love this. A Belgian member of the European Parliament, Mr. Chantery. This scandal of discrimination of homeopathy has to stop. Why can we not put indications on our vials? And why can the others do it? This is total discrimination. Stop the discrimination. Well, of course, I just explained to you, because they say we have no indications. That were their own words. But they have short memory. That's a side effect of homeopathy. I have much proof that all those pharmaceutical homeopathic firms, they distribute booklets for all kinds of ailments and say, if you have hemorrhoids, if you have cancer, use this. This is transgression of the law. That's criminal. This is not allowed. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. And then they were so brutal that in 2004, they legalized this. They legalized this. They said, well, homeopathic medications, they can put indications. They can put medical indications. They say, oh, what should be the proof? Well, if they can show a book that it has been traditionally used by homeopaths for that, that's sufficient. Is this honesty? We have in Europe extremely good consumer protection laws. The exception is you cannot complain against homeopaths because they are regulated in another law. That's a scandal. We should do this. All countries should be started acting against it, because in all countries they have mandatory by the European Union. They must have committees for recognizing and registering homeopathic medications. They call it HMP, homeopathic medical product. Do you know that they don't even have to write the contents on the label? If they just write Blatula orientalis, that means cockroach, start started with one cockroach, but diluted in billions and billions and billions of swimming pools. So there's nothing cockroach in it. Then they can say Blatta C500. They don't have to, even mineral waters in the European Union, they must have chemical analysis in understandable units, grams, milligrams, centigrams. Homeopaths don't. They say, cockroach shaken 1,000 times. That's all it must be. That's a scandal. We should do some legal actions, and I'm asking for help. I'm just a doctor. We need lawyers, and lawyers who are not too expensive and who want to go, let's say, on a European scale against those European laws that are in contradiction with consumer protection. So you can buy in any pharmacy, anywhere in the European countries, nonsense, sugar bowls, water, or cheap gin, sold as medication with commercial names and with indications. Now, we, the Flemish skeptics, we have a challenge. And I think James Randi certainly has it with 10 plus. We offer 10,000 euros for anybody who can make the difference between the basic stuff, sometimes it's water, sometimes it's alcohol, sometimes it's sugar pills, milk sugar, lactose. You can make the difference between the homeopathic medication and the sugar pills. Or even you can have 10,000 euros from the Flemish skeptics if you can make the difference between two different homeopathic products, of course in the high dilutions. It doesn't matter if it's cockroach or it's a Berlin wall. Yes, Berlin wall is a homeopathic product. Moonshine is also a homeopathic product. Don't you know? Yeah, Luna. You put a bottle of water in the moonshine and then you dilute it with water. Also, one of our challenges is, we're going to have to tell you a secret now. I have many more of those fantastic apparatuses, but they told me just a short talk. Nobody can make the difference between, let's say, the basic solute, say alcohol, water, or the homeopathic remedy you can make of it. Now, that's something I recommend. If you really want to make the homeopathic industry bankrupt, you put all your money together and you buy one vial of homeopathy. And that's a homeopathic copy machine. You just put homeopathy on the left side or the right, it doesn't matter. You put a bottle of water on the other side. It works even without batteries. You push the button and it becomes homeopathic. And nobody can make the difference. If you love science, and you know a little bit about medicine, there is in all civilized countries a book called a pharmacopoeia. It's a telephone book. It's a list of chemical products that have medical implications. And it starts with, let's say, their weight, their aspect, crystallization, medical action, how to work on it. And then that stupid European directive said homeopathy also must have a chapter in the European pharmacopoeia. And please take a note of this and do a Google. And quality of homeopathic products. If you do a Google, you have these documents. If you have some basic notions of chemistry, this is real slapstick. This is totally incredible. Because this are the first workings of making the homeopathic chapter in the pharmacopoeia. Incredible. I just was allowed 15 minutes and they're almost over, so I'll just cite something. That is, the pharmacopoeia has to be made on the existing pharmacopoeia. There is a German cooking book for homeopathy, and there is a French cooking book, and also one in the USA. Then they discovered that, they use, for the same name, they use different parts. For example, they discovered homeopathy use alchemistic names. Yeah? That's chemistry of 300 years ago. So, for example, one product is in Germany chloride, And in France it was chlorate. Chemically, that's quite a difference. Well, said the homeopathy, they both work, so we accept both of them. Sometimes the Germans use from one plant the root and the other use the leaves. They both work, so we accept them both. It's all homeopathy. Sometimes they collect the plant in the spring, sometimes in the autumn. Both accepted, no problem. Nobody cares because the prescribers and the client said it's not relevant. All traditions should be legalized. That means all possible nonsense is in that book. And it's just the beginning. And now that's a phrase I really love. This is in an official European Union document. The effects of homeopathy or homeopathic products are not measurable with current allopathic methods. You know what allopathic is? That's a very vicious name invented by homeopaths 200 years ago to describe the others. But that is based on the four humors, the life juices. Modern medicine has nothing to do with allopathy. We should refuse this. So, of course, I asked my friends, the homeopaths, perhaps you can measure the effect of a homeopathic medication with homeopathic means. They can't. They have tried. They have tried chemically with all kinds of tricks with machines. They even tried with the pendulum and the divining rod. They cannot make the difference between homeopathy and sugar or water. And if they can, send them to me, to the Belgian Skeptics, 10,000 euro. And we have a mecenas who phoned me last week and said, I want to raise your price to 1 million euros. That will be a shock. We will love it. So please help us. We must fight this European recognition of a product that contains nothing and still is called medication. How can we do this? We need lawyers. We need legal help. I'm just a poor doctor. How can we stop this? How can we stop this consumer fraud? Perhaps in national laws. I heard the British are trying something in their national laws by, let's say, accusing consumer fraud. Should we lobby in the European Parliament? Should we do an international action? And I end with a last anecdote. It's really true. A few months ago, it's more than a year ago now, a few Flemish skeptics, we went to the European Parliament. We were kind of smuggled in because you do not get in there. And then we had a list and we sneaked around in those corridors and we were able to see many members of the Health Committee, the European Parliament. And some of them received us very enthusiastically and very friendly and said, finally a scientist who comes to see us, because we are lobbied by them every day. And I think we should do this. We should also do what the homeopaths are doing, and other alternative people. They spend a lot of money, they spend a lot of time fighting for their business. And that's so sad. Universities, even for those committees, I'm a member now, to recognize alternative medicine, they have to send half of the member of those committees have to come from the medical faculties. And in the medical faculty say, is there anybody who would like to go to that stupid committee? Nobody likes to go, of course, not going to lose my time. And then somebody said, yes, but we have a weird semi-moron internist, and I think he does something with homeopathy. Let's send him. And that's very sad, but that's the way it's happening. Serious doctors do not want to taint their reputation with those dirty business. And I think we have to change this and really start working it seriously. That's what I wanted to tell you about homeopathy land. And many thanks. I feel very honored and very grateful. Thank you.
The World Skeptics Congress, paranormal, supernatural, fringe science, pseudoscience, and how it really is.
way of skeptically interrogating